Garmin Basecamp sucks. It is bad. I'm sitting here planning stuff, new trips, and I just realized that I'm still using a very, very old and clunky software. Garmin Basecamp, good old trusty, well, not so trusty Garmin Basecamp, and I'm still using it. I'm using it over all of this new fancy shiny app-based stuff like Komoot, AllTrails, and so on. Fatmap, like stuff like Fatmap is just amazing. Yet, I just keep going back to Garmin Basecamp. So why is this? And I want to show you guys why. And then I want to ask you if I'm getting it all wrong, because why is stuff not better yet? Why is the software that we are using to plan outdoor adventures still not as good as it can be? Well, let's dive into it. The answer lies in maps. Maps, big overview stuff, bird's eye view, libraries of knowledge, and then just like being able to interpret it, read it, and connect all the stuff into something that makes an interesting day. Well, I'm gonna try not to be abstract here. Let's just dive into my computer for a second and just, look at my screen together with me and I'll show you why. So what we're seeing right here is just like the basic topographical map, like the paper stuff that I was using just before. And the nice thing about a topographical map like this is like you can just read so much information of it. On a screen, it's difficult, especially on a phone screen. So this is why I like to plan like the big paper ones. And then as soon as you've narrowed down a day, I tend to skip to something like Komoot. So I'm an avid Komoot user. I use the Pro version. And as you can see here, I have planned over like almost 260 tours, completed almost 180 of those. And the reason, like this is not even close to the amount of tours, like or trips, outdoor trips that I've planned and executed. As like an outdoor enthusiast and international mountain leader, I've literally done hundreds of these. So I think I know, maybe what I'm talking about and what I like to use and what I don't like to use. So, you see my lists of trips, and you can also search for trips, and then you get like some combination of like tours like this. That's okay-ish, that's just a handful of them, and then you get to look at what makes these apps really, really, really good. This is the individual tours. So when I'm planning an individual tour, and I can select like the map layer, like this mountain bike specific one, and then I'll just get like a nice map and it'll let me plan stuff, and there'll be good overlays like on what the trails are like, and even stuff like, photos of the actual trail, which really, really help me, make decisions. And then at the end, you get like this individual tour file, which is just really smooth, really well done. And then what I do is I can just send it to my phone. I can use it on my phone, which I do all the time. Great stuff. I could even send it to like one of my Garmin cycling computers. There's an app for it, and I can just execute this individual tour in a very comfortable and easy manner. So what are you complaining about? That's what you might be asking. Well, if I compare this experience, like going from the very good single tour experience to trying to plan and narrow down this very single day, this is where, I feel like my hands are tied. This is where stuff like Komoot and all of the other apps just fail. They fail miserably, because if we just dive into Garmin Basecamp here, what I'm looking at here is one of the regions that I'm especially interested in this summer. It's a Keira. Now prepare to crash my computer. Boom. Oh my God. Do you see all these points? Do you see all these squiggly lines? It's too much, isn't it? Well, let's start here. I have this one collection, which is called the Keira Base. And this is just a collection of a whole bunch of points of interests laid over this basic map. So, what are the peaks? What are their altitudes? Where like the huts? Where do I have parking spaces? Where are all the cols, the crossings, the saddles crossing in between. Then you can see I have the springs marked. So where can I get fresh water? Where are there public water taps? All that kind of stuff. Where are some campsites, viewpoints, points of interest that you would like to link together, things that you like to know, like where do I find drinking water in the middle of summer? What's the name of this peak, etc. So I like to, make small collections of these things. Like this is a massive collection now, but for maybe trips spanning a couple of days or just a corner of a valley, I like to make these collections of points of interest that matter to me in that trip. Could be hiking, could be mountain biking, could be mountaineering, could be anything. But I just like, mark points of interest. And you cannot do this in all these modern apps. And like, do you need it? Don't you need it? Depends on how much you want to plan. I like to have all of them together and then link them up. Now, if you look at my screen again, I have these multiple collections of trails. So I kind of organize them depending on the source that I have. I can color code them, all that kind of thing. There's like miscellaneous, these are selections. And then what can happen here, especially when like cross-referencing it with all my points of interest, is I start to see these patterns. I start to see patterns of like what the interesting spots are, how they're linked together, how other people have linked them together. And this gives me inspiration for how I might do it, because I'm not always like looking to just take stuff off the internet and repeat what other people did. I like to be creative and draw my own conclusions based on large quantities of mapping information that shows me specific information relevant to what I want to do. Where can I park my car? Where do I find drinking water? Where's the passes? Where are the peaks? How have other people's been linking this up? Is there like manned huts and that kind of thing? So an absolutely massive, and depending on who you ask, like modest collection of information that you can see here in this library, linked in several lists. This is what I keep coming back to. This is what I keep returning back to, because even Komoot collections on my profile, they cannot do this. They cannot reach this level of detail. They do not allow me to link all these points of interest, and it hamstrings me. Why is this not possible? Why are we not allowed to do this? And even before you think that I'm going to be some old school guy that likes to use old software, Garmin Basecamp sucks. It is bad. Every time I use the search, it crashes. It has crashed every time I use the search for the entire 10 years that I've been using it. And even, making these lists is just clunky. So what would I want? Let me know if you guys want this as well. I would like to be able to do a Garmin Basecamp style library where I have folders, and then within these folders I could potentially have lists. But please also give me information layers. I want to be able to make lists of points of interest, give them a category, and then I want to be able to switch those on and off so I can filter my information more easily. Because, and this is probably the last thing I'm going to say here, single day things are good for probably the majority of people, but when you really want to study an area and then link things together and just have the relevant information for yourself, current software, current apps do not allow us to do this. Why? It's not that difficult to make. People are not that stupid, and we can think for ourselves. Now, please let me know. Am I missing out on something? Is there some software that I'm not using? Am I being a boomer? I'm a millennial, by the way, that is missing out on just open information? What am I missing out on? And if not, do you share my frustration? Would you also like to have these features in software? If you do, please let me know. Just comment under this thing, because if we gather what we want, maybe we can contact these software companies and show them that there's an actual, need or request or desire to have these things. So yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. Me sitting here with all my maps, planning my trips, still using pretty shitty old software, Garmin Basecamp, but it is still the best option that I know of to do this. What do you think?